has laid bare the truth about our institutions. Weak and mediocre. We have no Governor General because of scandal. The former clerk resigned in scandal. Eight senior leaders of the Canadian Armed Forces have been forced out. We have a military procurement that can't procure and payroll systems that can't pay. And now we have a parliament that can't do its job because the government defies this House. When will the government preserve what little remains, comply with the orders, and hand over the unredacted documents to the law clerk?
And the reform that we have presented is an ambitious one, and I hope that the Bloc Québécois will support it.
The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, orders of this House and its committees are binding and must be complied with, just like Canadians have had to comply with public health orders about quarantine. Mr. Speaker, your ruling yesterday made it clear the government is defying 3 orders of this House and its special committee. Will the government now comply with these orders and deliver the unredacted documents to the law clerk before the House has to adopt a 4th order demanding the government comply?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we see Conservatives playing games with national security, and on this side of the House, we will never do that, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the Public Health Agency of Canada has provided fully unredacted documents to the appropriate Committee of Parliamentarians with the appropriate security clearance, and I have written to the committee to suggest that if they study this issue, that would be appropriate.
The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not playing games here. Since the beginning of the pandemic, the Minister of Health has been telling Canadians to follow public health orders. And yet, she stubbornly refuses to do what the House has demanded that she do, which is to hand over the documents regarding the Winnipeg lab. Does the government not understand that it is undermining the rule of law when it tells Canadians to follow the rules, but doesn't do so itself? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so grateful to the public health officers across this country that have worked for so long to protect Canadians from COVID-19. In fact, I know many of them personally, and I know that they have done their absolute best to protect the citizens in their care. And just like them, Mr. Speaker, we will never do anything to put Canadians' national security at risk. We will continue, Mr. Speaker, to be open and transparent, to provide these documents to the appropriate committee, which the Public Health Agency of Canada has done. Mr. Speaker, that committee has the appropriate clearance to review these documents.
Honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, the pandemic has laid bare the truth about our institutions. Weak and mediocre. We have no Governor General because of scandal. The former clerk resigned in scandal. Eight senior leaders of the Canadian Armed Forces have been forced out. We have a military procurement that can't procure and payroll systems that can't pay. And now we have a parliament that can't do its job because the government defies this House. When will the government preserve what little remains, comply with the orders, and hand over the unredacted documents to the law clerk?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, on this side of the House, this Liberal government will never play games with national security like we see the Conservative.
This is what's at stake, Mr. Speaker, when the opposition doesn't help get C-32 through.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
In just a few weeks, the Liberals are planning on cutting vital money that Canadians need. Those receiving CRB benefits will soon get $800 less per month. The Liberals are forcing them to live on only $1,200 per month, and that is simply not enough, Mr. Speaker. People who need the CRB benefit in January are going to need it in August. Thousands of Canadians are scraping by. They will have to make difficult decisions just to get by. Will the minister commit to reversing this decision, which will have devastating impacts on 2 million Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the CRB is helping 2 million and has helped 2 million Canadians. And at present, Canadians have access to 38 weeks under the CRB. If opposition parties don't support C30, Canadians will end their benefits in the weeks to come. We can reverse that, Mr. Speaker. We can pass C30, give Canadians the extra weeks they deserve, give them more flexible access to EI, give them access to the wage subsidy, and 500,000 training and work opportunities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So the Prime Minister won't fire the Defence Minister. The Defence Minister won't do the honourable thing and resign. The military has no respect for their minister, and the hard-working people of Vancouver South have lost confidence in him. Canadians cannot afford more of the same of this minister's corruption. Therefore, I urge all my Liberal colleagues, vote in favour of censoring this minister for his conduct and join Conservatives in sending a clear message to the women who serve their country that we're demanding better and we're demanding a change at the top.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to start with what is most important to me and to our government, and that is that no woman should be sexually harassed in Canada, and that is particularly true when it comes to Canada's brave women in uniform. To those women, I would like to say directly, there is clearly a toxic culture in our armed forces, and that must change. And I do want to say our government has full confidence in our Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Prime Minister, she's concerned, should realize the toxic culture starts with the Prime Minister, this Minister, and the Chief of Staff.
The Honourable Member for York Simcoe.
Mr. Speaker, ordinary Canadians are being left behind by this Liberal government. Inflation is out of control. Prices are skyrocketing, wages are down, unemployment is rising, and businesses are closing. Canadians look at their country and no longer see it as a place where they can build something for the future. That's on the Liberals. They've turned Canada into a country where it has become impossible to succeed. Inequality is rampant, but opportunity is nowhere to be found. Young families can't afford to buy a home. People are losing their jobs. And taxation, red tape, and restrictions are stifling and shuttering businesses across the country. Success is no longer determined by hard work. It's something only well-connected Liberals and the wealthy can achieve. Canadians need hope. They need assurance that there's a future in it for them. That's what Conservatives are fighting for. Canadians are counting on us to secure the future, and we won't give up.
The Honourable Member for Windsor.
The former clerk resigned in scandal. Eight senior leaders of the Canadian Armed Forces have been forced out. We have a military procurement that can't procure and payroll systems that can't pay.